Call Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Akakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, great mills of well. I am not a member, however, I've entered into their labors. Peace and mercy to the sincere brothers and sisters doing this wherever you are, whatever your life may be. As we're pushing closer and closer to the return of our Lord and Savior Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh, by the hand of Yahweh, but the action taken will be by His Son, His only begotten Yahweh Shai. You're starting to see more and more and more. There's those false prophets, more of that pseudoscience, right? Falsely so called, in the book of Timothy, First Timothy, that Paul wrote to him to be aware of. And more idolatry will come because basically people hate the truth. Everybody's a Christian until the Bible comes out, until the truth of the Bible comes out. And the Bible is a sword, and when it is wielded properly by a trained swordsman in the spirit, it looks different. It cuts different. And when you think a blade is dull, but you just don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to swing at the right speed. You don't know how to hold your wrists in order for it to, use the weight of the blade in order to maximize its cutting or slicing power in the spirit, of course. So what you have are Christians with very low skill, not classically trained, if you will, and no battle IQ or no battle experience in the spirit. Okay, and really they're just playing swordsman. And you start to see this more. I think I will try to find the video, but you start to see more and more of all right, these Christians try to elevate something other than the truth, elevate something outside that satisfies that itch in their ear. And we'll get that. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and get Golly, they got my damn monitor again. Let's go ahead and get Matthew 24 about false prophets, right? Or as it reads verbatim, false Christ, okay? But we understand it's false Mashiach, false anointed, people who think they are on a level, people who think they know something, but you know nothing, and you are giving heed to seducing spirits, and we need that too. I'm gonna forget if I don't type it out. Giving heed. Yeah, so I needed that, and then itching ears. Because if I try to rely on memory, it's gonna slip my mind. Matthew 24:4 here will open up. For there shall arise false Mashiach and false prophets, and or Hamashiachim, I guess, if that's how you want to say it. But we'll just go verbatim. Fine. False Christ and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Not only will you have it from above, right, with these different types of operations that will generally fool the masses, you will have it at the advent of the internet. The internet is a double-edged sword. You can get a lot of truth, but you can get a bunch of idiots who who have an opportunity to express their opinion. So you got to chew the meat, spit out the bones there. All right, heed to seducing spirits, First Timothy 4:1. So we'll go to that real quick. And I got about 12 minutes, so we gonna do this here. We're gonna make it count, but I don't want to short it. All right, we're gonna make sure we get what we need. Apostasy, 1 Timothy 4:1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter time some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats which Yahweh hath created, to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of Yahweh is good, and nothing to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving, for it is sanctified by the word of Yahweh and prayer. And a Christian will pervert that to say they can eat what they want, right? That is not what this means. And secondly, you can sum this up also on a secondary level by just saying that the simplicity in Yahweh Shai is just too much for a Hellenized Jake, basically. All right, the Candace Owens did a Bible breakdown about this whole thing, and she fancied herself a historian, and she pretty much did that whole Greek mythology thing where there was a race of giants and there was a war in heaven, and God kicked out those angels, and those angels landed on Mount Moriah or somewhere Mount Heron, some shit like that. And then they came, they're 4,500 foot tall, the same old stuff. When you understand that giant simply means they were renowned men. Before we were Israelites, we were sons of God. All right. And you can see Jake excel now, even in captivity. So how much more before the food and the air was polluted, right? And we were, in our infant stages, and the Lord had mercy on us, and well, until we went off, right? And then furthermore, how did these so-called 4,500 foot or 450 foot tall giants put their rod in the daughters of men? Thirdly, how did they survive the flood? The scriptures are very particular when it tells you who all made it out of that flood, right? And in Yahushua comes in the volume of the book, right? So the simplicity of Yahushua is in the volume of the book. Okay, the truth is stranger than fiction, and the truth of the matter is, it ain't no reptilians, it ain't none of that. The aliens that people are talking about are the angels of the Lord, right? These are so-called black men with afros, right? And you have left-handed spirits and you have right-handed spirits, and Yahweh is in charge of all. He is an omnipotent power, right? He understands, because he created the earth and everything that we see and don't see. He understands what balance needs to be made. So you have left-handed spirits, you have right-handed spirits. You have some that are meant to do and cause chaos and create, and carry out evil, and some that are meant to carry out good, to encourage, to help and inspire and provide the spirit to his men, right? To his hopeful, his elect. Okay. So everybody comes from here. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. That's where everybody stems from. Okay? But understand that the Lord separated these nations. But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. These are the generations of Noah, the 3 sons. I want to get to the flood. Yep, so Genesis 7. So we're at 7. Let's get 7 and 7, and we'll go to 8. Damn, I'm kind of cutting it close. Anyway, it don't matter. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wives and his sons' wives, and with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Those are your survivors right there. And then he understood, right, because the priesthood, it was oral. How did he know clean and unclean? Right, so the sons of God were still sons of God with a oral tradition being passed down until he made it official, right, from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and then they were changed to Israelites. Those are the giants in those days. Those are the sons of God. There are different classifications. It is very simple if the Spirit is working with you, and if not, that is a personal issue. I am sorry for you. Okay, and what did I say? Did I get giving heed to seducing spirits? Yes, that's what I read. So we don't need you. Itching ears is another one. So 2 Timothy 4. So we was already there. No, we were in 1 Timothy. And forgive me if I'm moving a little fast, but prayerfully you're sticking with me here. Here it is, 2 Timothy 4 and 3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables. And that is what Jake wants. Weird Greek mythology mixed with Christianity, because the truth of Yahweh Shai, the truth is not in them. So the simplicity in Yahweh Shai, they cannot fathom it. It can't just be that simple. It's gotta be some outlandish, outrageous thing. Okay, and if you're being pushed into these outlandish and outrageous doctrines, furthermore, you have no faith. Faith, without the simplicity and the understanding of Yahweh, you are going to take the injectable for the detectable, because you can be moved from any wind of doctrine. Anything can shake you. You will follow what your ears are itching to hear. You stumble at the truth. It is a stumbling block unto you. It offends you. Work on that if that's you. So I pulled up Wisdom of Solomon 14 because it talks about it here, and I went into Grok, right? So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and it kind of goes into how idolatry, um, metastasized into this terrible thing that what we see now. And marriage is no longer safe. It's like opening Pandora's box. Marriage is no longer sacred. The lines of morality are blurred. And basically, you have what we have, with this East Files thing going on here in the area, right, where children are prey. Nobody's safe. Every time you turn around, something is something. Okay. So I asked for what is the historical reference to. So we'll just read it here because um, but I also wanted, you know what? That's what we also need. Excuse me. Not the Septuagint. We also need it in the GNT. The GNT helps a lot, especially with the Apocrypha. I don't think there's a in NLT Apocrypha. 14. And we'll read it here, and then we'll get it in Grok. All right. Yeah, so in here we'll kind of skim through this too as well. Sexual immorality began when grief. Verse 12, sexual immorality began when idols were invented. They have corrupted human life ever since they were first made. So let's go ahead, let's put these together. In 12, right, but we need 15 or 14 through 17, I believe. All right. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them corrupted life, or of them the corruption of life. For neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. For by the vainglory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he hath made an image of his son, to take away, now honored him as a god, lowercase g, emphasize that, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those who were under his ceremonies, who were under him ceremonies and sacrifices, right? So you're passing down of a left-handed priesthood there, a left-handed oral tradition of sacrifices and ceremonies, rituals and rites. Thus, in the process of time, an ungodly custom growing strong was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings. All right, you can also look into, especially the book of Maccabees. That was what that Maccabean revolt was all about. All right, Antiochus said we should all be one, and put off your customs and courtesies and your gods, and you fall up under our lowercase g gods. All right, do that or get put to death, basically. Whom men could not honor in presence, because they dwelt far off. They took the counterfeit of his visage from afar, and made express image of a king whom they honored, to the end that by this their frowardness they might flatter him that was absent, as if he were present, right? So you're not in the presence of a feigning omnipotence, basically. All right, there be gods many, there be lords many, lowercase g, but there is only one. All right, that is why one of his titles are the Most High. Verse 18, also the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition, for he peradventure willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make resemblance of the best fashion. All right, so the multitude allured by the grace of the work took him now for a god, lowercase g, which a little before, was but honored. And if we go here, let me make it a little bit easier. All right, once there was a father, he was overwhelmed with grief. Yep. Suddenly taken from him, he honored a dead human, being as a god. All right, handed on secret rituals, ceremonies to those who were under his authority. Time went on, the ungodly custom became stronger. Finally, it became law. Idols were being worshipped and commanded at the powerful rulers. People lived too far away to honor the ruler, in his presence, but were eager to pay honor to this absent king. All right, they imagined what he must look like, and would then make a likeness of him. And there's you go. There's that law of vibration and attraction. So when you say, if somebody was to say that the name doesn't matter, you can call him the J word. What image comes to mind? All right, what even if you're even if you say, well, I'm not sure about Yahweh Shai, but I do know I love the Lord. I love the Lord and I want to follow. But you keep saying that J word. That J word carries another vibration. That is another idol. And you cannot link the two. They cannot be mixed. That is a falsehood of Christianity, born of Greek mythology and furthermore, not even that and all right, Serapis Christus, okay, Apis Bull, um, and what else? Egyptology, all right. So from Samaria first, and also through the that Renaissance, right, where they painted over the images, the dark images, and made them pale. All right, then the people will be so attracted to the work of art that the one of whom they had earlier honored now because the object of their worship, or became the object of their worship. All right, and this is a start of idolatry. And as you see, it starts as something small and then metastasizes into, well, what we see here today with these weird rites and rituals, which have just been repeated. Okay, that is why there's that there's a temple, that Baal temple, right, or a Moloch temple, I believe, on that island. Why did you go to that island? All right, grief-driven ancestor veneration. Okay, here are some of the things that it's saying. Political ruler cults, right? To honor distant African king. All right, this reflects common ancient practices the author critiques. All right, it's private family cults of the dead, memorial images, ancestors worship in Greco-Roman and Near Eastern cultures. All right, imperial ruler cults is another thing, especially relevant in the author's area, as some scholars see allusion here to the emerging Roman emperor cult under Augustus. All right, after 30 BC, where images of the emperor were venerated across the empire. Some blending honor with divine status. But they mentioned something here about Hellenistic Jews. Where are you? Okay, so we'll go back up to the top. Sorry that I'm skipping around. All right, this is not a reference to a specific historical event or person from the Bible or known history. Instead, the author, right, a Hellenistic Jew, likely from Alexandria around the late 1st century BC, early, and that is, I don't know exactly if that is true. I cannot call it, but the Hellenistic Jew point I wanted to hone in on was how and why you get these perverted variations of the gospel, right, with these giants and reptilians and all this other stuff, and then Satan warred against God, and God prevailed and kicked the angel out of heaven, and he took 200. All that stuff that has been disproven 25,000 times over. Okay, and that is a what's the word? I guess a result, right, of Hellenistic so-called Jew, or what you would say, Hellenistic Jacobites or Israelites, giving heed to fables and vain doctrines, right? Okay, a speculative ideological explanation of how idolatry began, all right? And it makes sense. It truly does. It starts as something and grows into a perversion, and then that cup, or it starts as a perversion and grows into a bigger one. And as soon as that cup runneth over, that cup filleth up, that cup of judgment, then here comes the Lord right on time to smack all that down. And you will see that in very near future here. Okay, that the sins of Babylon has reached unto the heavens, all right, the daughter of Babylon. And with that comes a great judgment, no longer of water, but of fire. All right, so with that being said, I pray that you stuck with me. I know we move kind of fast, but I pray that you are edified and that you are inspired to go in, read some more things, kind of dig a little deeper in history, and do some edification on your own, right? So on to the next. Shalom.